You may or may not be aware, it's a moot point in some respects, that the UK government stated some time ago in their Strategic Defence Review that cybercrime was a Tier 1 threat, second only to terrorism. Rightly or wrongly, with fear comes funding. So I think we've been fortunate in the amount of Home Office money we've had put into policing cyber. One of the things I'm going to explain is what sort of law enforcement landscape is here. I think, to be fair, my personal view is that it's still a little bit muddy. I shall try and explain it as best I can. And obviously, as Baroness suggested earlier, we've obviously got the National Cyber Centre coming as well, which will change things very slightly. But I will mention that just a little bit further on. I've put definitions on here because it took the Home Office and Cabinet Office quite some time. We spent considerable time deciding what cyber was. I think it's already been mentioned that it's been called economic crime and it's been called IT crime and so on. But cyber's what we've settled on, and there's a big difference between cyber-dependent crimes, which is pretty much what my team deal with, as opposed to cyber-enabled, albeit, again, has been mentioned, and you'll see from my presentation that there are elements of cyber-enabled crime and pure cyber that go together, really, because the more sophisticated it gets, the more layers the actors involved in this put on it. I'll try not to use the word sophisticated too much, because I think everybody thinks that cybercrime is sophisticated, and some of it, as has been explained, isn't really that sophisticated. It's just, taking advantage of vulnerabilities that exist, really. Excuse my flapping of notes as well. So, the cyber threat environment, and I'm quite pleased to have listened to the hacking piece and what Dr. Hahn has said, because if she's still in the room, anybody who's got any questions about the technical aspects of these, please direct them to her and not to me. Thank you. I investigate it. I'm not a forensic examiner. You'll see when I put up a slide about sort of how our unit sits within the picture, really, the different teams we've got within it. To be fair, we talk about DDoS, talk about ransomware and all those things. It's not set in stone that the people doing one type of crime are political activists or anarchists and so on. It varies. And some of these people will be a loosely affiliated group of people that perhaps met through a gaming site and then they've taken it a step further. There might well be some of those government or state-sponsored actors sitting, in difficult jurisdictions, and that is the case. I mentioned sort of on the slide there, DD4BC, Lizard Squad, Anonymous. They were people that started probably 5-6 years ago, and then they kind of went away, and now they've come back, and there's a sort of an extortion layer that has been added. I have not been involved in any investigations where the motivation appeared to be a pure espionage situation, whether that's through underreporting. I suspect some of that would now go to the National Crime Agency, but that's not something that we've come across. Theft, extortion, blackmail attached to cybercrime is something that's very much in the fore at the moment. I've only put this slide, and I know that DDoS doesn't result in data theft and data exfiltration, but I think it's always interesting, if you ever see that live, to see the number of attacks that are coming and the jurisdictions they're coming from, in particular into the States, into UK and Western Europe. And whilst DDoS is saying itself it's not necessarily something your companies would be particularly concerned about, it is often used to cover up some other more serious issue, which is why we take it very seriously when companies report it. Lifetime, we do get that. A lot of companies have mitigated it already, but we will still go and do some lifetime stuff for them and try and mitigate what we can, or give advice at least, particularly with smaller companies and medium enterprises who perhaps don't have the infrastructures that some of the big companies that you represent have.